Hi, everybody. My name is Ben Conroy with the National Sports Media Association. Today, I'm talking with 2022 New York Sportscaster of the Year, Mr. Gary Cohen. Gary, thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me, Ben.
Absolutely. So I wanted to sort of start at the beginning here. I wanted to ask maybe how you got your start in sports media, how you got your first job, and then take me along your career path to where you are now.
Well, it probably started when I was 9 years old and got an AM radio in my room for the first time. I'm old enough that it was a, a big wooden box that you had to wait to warm up because it had tubes in it. So that it goes back that far. I grew up listening to Marv Albert and Bob Murphy and Ralph Kiner and Lindsey Nelson and Al Albert and John Sterling and as many out of town broadcasts as I could gather in. And I was fascinated by sports on the radio, particularly play by play. But I never really thought of it as a job path. And then I got to college and I went to the University of Pennsylvania my freshman year, and I saw an ad in um, the paper during orientation. It said, if you want to be the voice of the Quakers, come to this meeting. And I went to the meeting and they said, go to a game, take a tape recorder, make a tape. I went to a Penn Lafayette freshman football game, made a tape. They put me on the air, gave me a few opportunities. I transferred to Columbia the next year and got to do more. When I got out of college, I wanted to get into sports, but I also wanted to be on the air. I didn't want to be sweeping floors or pulling wires. So I got a job doing news actually out of town in New Hampshire. That led to a sports job in South Carolina. That led me to Norfolk, Virginia, where I did my first D1 basketball for Old Dominion. That led to my first minor league job in Durham in 1986, doing A-ball for the Durham Bulls. The next year, I was able to get a job in Pawtucket doing the AAA Paw Sox for a couple of years. And then in 1989, I was able to come full circle and get home, and I got the job with the Mets. And I've been there ever since. 17 years on the radio, 17 years on television, and so this is going to be year 35 coming up.
Wow, what a long and decorated career. Congratulations on that. With covering so many different teams and so many different storied franchises, what are some of your favorite moments or memories that you have over the years?
Well, I've got a lot of them. I mean, with the Mets, my most treasured memory is the 1999 season. I arrived in 1989, and the Mets were coming off the best 4-year stretch in franchise history. They won the World Series in '86. They got to the LCS in '88, and it was supposed to be a long and celebrated stretch of dynasty. And I got there and they fell off the table. So it had been 10 years that I had been with the Mets and they hadn't been to the postseason. So 1999 was special. They had all sorts of thrilling come from behind wins. They were 2 games behind for the wild card with 3 games to play and managed to force a 1-game playoff, which they won in Cincinnati. Pulled out a dramatic postseason series against the Diamondbacks on Todd Pratt's home run, extended their series against the Braves with Robin Ventura's grand slam single, and just fell short in extra innings in Game 6. But that year, the totality of it really is my best memory.
Absolutely. I'm sure it was refreshing to break the drought there.
Yeah.
So if you had advice for a young person or a college student, trying to crack into the world of sports media and get that first job, what advice would you give them?
Well, I don't know about the totality of sports media. I really only know about play-by-play because that's kind of what I do. I would say the best thing for any person who wants to do play-by-play is to first think about radio, because if you can garner the skills for radio, you can develop the skills for TV, because radio is obviously a whole lot harder. You're painting pictures with words. So you grab a tape recorder, you go to any game, high school game, college game you're watching on TV, get a couple of rosters and stat sheets and just start talking and try to figure out what it is that you want to say and how you want to say it and the terminology you want to use, and then listen to it. And it'll be horrible the first time out and the second time out and the third time out, but you keep doing it, you keep listening, you keep thinking about what you can do better, And when you get to the point where you can stand listening to yourself, then you ask somebody who has some knowledge of the subject to critique it, and then you go back and you do it again and again and again and again. And that's really the only way to learn how to do play-by-play. Nobody can teach you how to do it in a classroom. People can give you pointers, but you have to be yourself. You have to develop your own style. You have to figure out your vocabulary and how you can use it and best paint a word picture. The TV side of it, frankly, is more about just knowing how to look on camera and how to look into the lens and figure out how to communicate with people. But that part is easy compared to the art of trying to find your own voice doing play-by-play.
Absolutely. Good advice there. I wanted to ask about this award. As somebody who's, dedicated so much of your life to play-by-play in the world of sports media, what does it mean to have your work recognized by your peers in this way with the Sportscaster of the Year award?
Well, New York is different from most other states in that regard. You're competing against the best in the world. You're talking about Mike Breen and Ian Eagle and some of the Sam Rosen and some of the greatest sportscasters in history. Bruce Beck, who does such an incredible job in the studio and has won this award many times. So, any state award is gratifying, but to win this award in New York State at any time with the competition that you compete against on the airwaves every day is rather phenomenal.
Absolutely. And obviously, it's a new year, new Mets season coming up. Is there anything that excites you about covering the team this year? Anything you're looking forward to?
Sure. They won 101 games last year. People remember how it ended in the first round against the Padres, but this team was so much fun to watch last year. And I don't know if they've improved this year, but I think they've at least stayed the same. They seem to replace all of the parts that they lost with equal or better parts. Jacob deGrom leaves, they get Justin Verlander. Taijuan Walker and Chris Bassett leave, they get Kodai Senga and Jose Quintana, that kind of stuff. And for my money, it might be an even better team than it was last year. Buck Showalter was fantastic, won Manager of the Year in his first year with the Mets, and I think they're primed for another great year. The only problem is they've got two other great teams in their division, the Braves and the Phillies. So it should be another bang-up division race.
Absolutely. My last question here: you've talked about New York, what a fantastic place it is for sports media. Some of the incredible people working in the city. What's your favorite part about covering the Mets and being in the world of sports media in New York?
Well, my favorite part about covering the Mets is that I've been watching them since I was 6 years old. I mean, I live a dream come true, right? Everybody who does play-by-play aspires to get to the major leagues in whatever sport they prefer. But for me, it's a labor of love. I mean, I didn't have to learn the history of the Mets when I got here. I kind of lived the history of the Mets, having watched them since 1964. So to me, that's the best part of it for me. And I'm a New York kid. This is what I know. I worked out of town to try to get back here. I was able to do that. And, 35 years later, here I still am.
Absolutely. Gary, thank you for taking the time today. Congratulations on this award and a fantastic career, and all the best going forward.
Thanks very much, Ben. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.